Two bros chilling in the hot tub.
You the twos and we the ones? Well, you are the biggest two of them all, my dog. That's what you are. You are a giant number two.
Now, the Commanders are on the clock at pick 7. You just deleted the whole thing. Now, the Commanders are on the clock at pick 7. I have them drafting who I think is the best receiver of this draft. He is the best receiver in this draft. He is an Ohio State guy. He is an exceptional route runner. Big body, size, height, weight, speed. He is the epitome of height, weight, speed. And I think he's going to make Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin's life a whole hell of a lot easier next year. Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Two Bros Podcast. Happy draft week, because the NFL draft is in 2 days. As always, I am Bryce, and I am joined by...
Hey, I am Matt, and honestly, I don't really care about the first round because I'm a Packers fan. And we
your team... Hey, the Colts don't have a first-round draft pick either. Neither one of our teams have a first-round draft pick. Thanks,
Jet. For the love of the game. We're just doing this for the love of the game, man.
Alrighty. We are doing the first ever Two Bros Podcast NFL mock draft. And this is going to be pretty much 1 through 32. I don't know how to word this anyway. It's going to be 1 through 32. We're doing one.
It's the first round.
Yeah, we're just doing the first round. But with the first pick, I have the Raiders drafting Fernando Mendoza. It will be Fernando Mendoza until it is not. It will be Fernando Mendoza until it's not.
I'm going to say this now. On Thursday, they're going to take up all the time because they want to get as much as they can out of the sponsors, but it is going to be Fernando Mendoza.
They've already called Fernando Mendoza. He's probably already been at Allegiant Stadium multiple times already, getting the playbook already. He's probably been reading the playbook already, studying for rookie camp already. He's already got Raiders gear, Raiders hat. He's got his number in there. Wait, I didn't even know you could cross that out. That's pretty cool.
I'm just doing a strike through so we know where we're at.
So, at pick 2, wait, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I think that might be the most clear as day pick.
That's the easy one. Now the draft really starts because now we have some contention because now there's 2 guys that are rumored to be at number 2. There was pretty much one, but now teams have fallen in love with this guy. I have, and either one I think is going to be number 2, but I have the Jets drafting David Bailey at 2. And there are concerns about whether or not he can be a 3-down edge rusher because he is the best pass rushing edge rusher in the draft. But there are concerns on whether or not he can actually stop the run because he's not shifty enough. He's not big enough to be a 3-down guy right now. Maybe that could happen, but we will see.
You know, I actually like this pick. I think David Bailey overall is a very good player. I think I would still go for Arvell Reese, just the athletic specimen that he is. But, you know, I can't argue going for just the best base overall player. The height, you can go for upside, but I think the Jets aren't looking for upside right now. They're looking for someone who can actually be a genuine, a genuine player to give them something to work with right away.
Yeah. Now, I think that the Cardinals at 3, there are a lot of rumors on who they're going to take because Jeremiah Love to the Cardinals has been heating up, but I do think that their bigger area of need right now is pass rusher because after the signing of Tyler Algier, I don't think that they are going to draft Jeremiah Love because they still have James Conner, they still have Trey Benson. I think 4 key running backs is entirely too much, and I think the Cardinals realize that, and I'm going to have them taking Arvell Reese. I know there are concerns because we never really saw Arvell Reese be a pass rusher in college, and that's what they're trying to mold him into. But I don't think that necessarily he will excel as a pass rusher, but at the worst, they're going to get a really good off-ball line.
Yeah, I think that we're kind of spoiled by linebackers who have the ability to be a pass rusher. If you really look at a linebacker, they're not always going to be the one hitting the quarterback. I think a lot of times a linebacker is really meant to drop back in coverage, play the run defense, be a QB spy, especially in today's football. So I think a athletic specimen like Arvell Reese is going to thrive a lot. And I think the Cardinals are a team that, yes, they could use pass rush, but it's not like so prevalent like other teams that we see, like a Cincinnati, that they can get away with grabbing a guy who's just going to be such a good gadget piece.
Yeah. And now I think the Titans pick at 4 is going to be Jeremiah Love. This is the best player in the draft class, and they get a position of need. Is running back a premium position in the NFL anymore? Absolutely not. Although, with the way the new meta in the NFL is going, I think running is going to start to be really prioritized more than it has been over the last 10 years. And I think Jeremiah Love is a good piece to plug in with the Titans offense alongside Cam Ward, Wanda Robinson, Eligai Manor, Calvin Ridley, Chimere Dike, Gunnar Helm. I think this is going to be a great piece for the Titans.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I think the Titans understand that they need a real running back. Tony Pollard is good, but he is a good backup or a good running back by committee guy. And Jeremiah Love is as real as you can get as running back.
Pass catcher. People are saying he is a better overall prospect than Ashton Jeanty last year.
To me, I look at him as someone you 100% want to put around your second year quarterback. I think if they can get Jeremiah Love, they knocked it out of the park with their first round.
Okay, now the Giants at 5 with their first round draft pick. And I have them taking the athletic monster, the most athletic linebacker we've probably ever seen at the Combine. They're going to take Ohio State superhuman linebacker, Sonny Styles.
Yeah, this man's a freak.
This is a John Harbaugh pick if I've ever seen it. Is he the same level of talent that Roquan Smith is? No, because they're very different players. But John Harbaugh likes two things. He likes impactful safeties, and he likes impactful off-ball linebackers. And I think that John Harbaugh gets his new field general at pick 5.
No, I 100% agree. I think the way you said it is perfect. This is a Harbaugh pick, and Sonny Styles is someone who everyone kind of looks at as is he going to be a bust or is he going to be this freak athlete? I think he's going to fall somewhere in the middle. He's going to be really good. I don't foresee him being an Isaiah Simmons, but you're right. I also don't foresee him being a Roquan Smith. But I think he is going to fit really well in a Harbaugh scheme. So I'm excited. A top 5 pick on a guy who is a freak athlete. You take a chance on him.
Yeah. And I think he's one of the 4 or 5 blue chip prospects in this draft. And ironically, this is not a premium position draft for blue chip prospects.
No.
You look at all the blue chip prospects. You have Jeremiah Love, not blue chip. You have Caleb Downs, or Jeremiah Love, blue chip, not premium position. Caleb Downs, blue chip prospect, not premium position. Sonny Styles, blue chip, not premium position. Guess what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't. Teams will now take talent because they want to take talent. Premium position is them drafting guys they want. That's what it is. And the Giants need this pick so bad.
I agree.
But next we have the Browns. The Browns have a lot of areas of need. They have a lot of areas of need. And they are a team that has 2 first-round draft picks. I'm going to have them draft the first receiver off the board, and I think they're going to take Jordan Tyson. There are Jordan Tyson question marks, pretty much all about his health. This is a guy who's had a lot of injuries in college, but you can't deny how good of a product he actually is. And I think if he can stay healthy, this is a guy who is going to be one of the 5 to 10 best receivers in the league in a few years.
I think Jordan Tyson is the best talent for sure out of the receiver classes here. My only issue is I think you have to look at a guy like Carnell Tate and recognize he's going to play a lot more games. Jordan Tyson, to me, is a player you cannot look at as I'm going to bank my franchise around him, because the Browns have nobody. They don't have any receiving talent. I'm sorry. Like, Jerry Jeudy is not a real number one. You can't bank on a second-year running back and a second-year tight end to be your number one guys. I think this is a position where this feels like a Browns pick of Jordan Tyson taking him for the potential, but I think they need to take Carnell Tate. But I can see them going Jordan Tyson.
And now the Commanders are on the clock at pick 7. You just deleted the whole thing. Now the Commanders are on the clock at pick 7. I have them drafting who I think is the best receiver in this draft, Carnell Tate. He is the best receiver in this draft. He is an Ohio State guy. He is an exceptional route runner, big body, size, height, weight, speed. He is the epitome of height, weight, speed. And I think he's going to make Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin's life a whole hell of a lot easier next year.
Yeah. To me, he'll be the number one on that team.
Yeah. Okay, now we're continuing the run on receivers. Because I have the Saints taking Makai Lemon, and the receiver 1, 2, and 3 are off the board, and this is all 3 teams that needed receivers, and I know teams are going to be so mad that they didn't get any one of those 3, but I don't think that any one of those 3, if they're in that position, are going to trade the potential of having their franchise, their number 1 receiver of the future. They're not going to pass up on the opportunity to lose him.
Not at all. No, that makes a lot of sense.
And Makai Lemon is a slot, but it doesn't really matter because they have Chris Olave and they have Devon Villay. So Makai Lemon can be the slot receiver. They don't really have another receiver outside of those 2. And really, Devon Villay is still unproven, but they gave up draft capital, so there's no way in hell they're replacing him already. And he's a Sean Payton guy. But even though Sean Moore's there, he's not in New Orleans. He's in Denver. But next we have the Chiefs at 9, who have been rumored to move up to 3, because I don't think they want the opportunity to miss out on Arvell Reese or David Bailey. But I have them going with an actual Steve Spagnuolo pick, and I have them staying at 9 and drafting Ruben Bain Jr. Yes, his arms are short, but he is so powerful. He is Nick Chubb. If Nick Chubb was an edge rusher. He is tiny, but he is powerful. He is a bowling ball. He is a tank, and you will not stop him once he's got his mind on a tank.
Yeah, I think he may not be the flashiest pick, but I don't think we've ever looked at the Chiefs and been like, they're the flashy pick kind of team. That's a Cowboys type thing to do. I really like this move. As much as I hate the Chiefs, this is a move that's going to help them a lot.
Yeah. And now the Giants are on the board again with pick 10. And I mentioned blue chip prospects earlier. And there's not a blue chip prospect. There's not a prospect more that is a Jim Harbaugh guy more than Caleb Downs. And I have Caleb Downs going to the Giants at 10. Josh Downs' brother... he's Josh Downs' brother. But Caleb Downs is such an amazing... He can play in the box. He can play high. He can play deep safety. He can play nickel. He can be all over the field. This is a John Harbaugh safety pick if I have ever seen one. This is the NFC East Kyle Hamilton. That's exactly what he's going to be in the Giants' defensive.
I couldn't argue. I think Caleb Downs is probably a top 3 player in this draft. And for him to fall to 10 just because he's not a position of need just blows my mind.
Yeah. He's one of the... Yeah. If I think it goes... Because I looked at one of these sites today and they had Ruben Bain. Jeremiah Love is the best player in this draft. And I'm not going to disagree with that. I think Jeremiah Love is the best player in this draft. But, yeah. Caleb Downs is one of the 3 best players in this draft. So, that's all I'm going to say. Next, the Dolphins are on the clock, and they have a lot of positions of need, but every position of need that's not really running back or quarterback is really a position of need. And I have the Dolphins taking probably their biggest position of need because they're going to be playing in the AFC East, which is going to have A.J. Brown soon. So I have them taking the best corner in the draft that played last year in Avion Terrell. I don't think he's the best corner in this draft because I think there's another guy.
Dolphins.
I had the Dolphins at 11, taking Mansour Delane.
Cool. So yeah, the Cowboys, because you said Avion Terrell.
Yeah, no, the Dolphins take Mansour Delane. Well, that kind of spoiled my Cowboys pick because you have anything you want to add about Mansour Delane?
I don't know much about the guy, so I really can't add in too much.
He's the best corner in the draft that played last year. That's all I'll say. The best corner in the draft didn't play last year because he tore his ACL in January last year. But 12 at the Cowboys, it was already spoiled. Avion Terrell out of Clemson. Again, the Cowboys need secondary, and this is a guy who is going to stay in the field. He's a guy who is a lockdown. He's a guy who's going to... They need corner upgrade right now because Deron Bland is too much of a ball hawk, and they have another guy who's going to be gone this year. But do you have anything to add?
No, I think the idea of the Cowboys adding up secondary, it's really helpful. This team has addressed their pass rush and their run defense really well over the last year. You good?
Yeah, the Cats are fighting. They're running all around the house right now. Yeah, they're
But the secondary is the only thing that I really felt was a weakness for this defense towards the end of the season. So I think this is awesome.
yeah. Okay, now this is where there's going to be a lot of contention because I have the Rams with their pick, with their first round pick, they're taking Ty Simpson.
Ooh.
I think that they are going to take Ty Simpson and tell the Cardinals, up yours. If you wanted him, you should have taken him at 3. This is a guy who's going to be the Matt Stafford replacement. He's a guy who's going to be able to sit next year. And I know that the Rams and Matt Stafford are working on a contract extension right now, so maybe more than next year he'll just get to sit. Maybe the next 2 or 3 years. And I think this is perfect. This is going to give Ty Simpson a great chance to learn behind an MVP, a future Hall of Famer, a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Ty Simpson is a guy who was a tale of two halves last year. First half of the year, Ty Simpson was rumored to be the number 1 pick in the draft. Then Ty Simpson gets hurt, plays like actual trash, and now there's reports that he may not even be a first-round pick. This is a guy to sit and learn.
This is interesting because the Rams have never been known for the surprise pick. When you look at the Rams, you kind of think of them like, all right, cool, we're going to get a defensive player. This feels like a splash that they're going to make, though. Simpson is a polarizing prospect. I think you look at him and you're like, you recognize he can be really good. And sitting behind him one of the most accurate and one of the most fundamentally sound quarterbacks of all time in Matt Stafford could be amazing for his career.
And now we have the Ravens at 14 because they actually have their pick because they rigged the NFL to keep their first-round pick. But we have the Ravens taking probably their biggest area of need right now, and that is offensive line. Granted, Francis Mariano is a tackle, but Francis Mariano is a guy who can play all over the offensive line. He can play anywhere. Who's going to be their center next year because Tyler Linderbaum is gone? At least Jerome Simpson was a guard. Who's going to play center for them next year? And I do think Francis Mariano, there you go. Here's going to be the new center for the Ravens.
6 foot,
130-pound center, which not that undersized. Actually, not that undersized.
You know what?
Actually, kind of small, anyways. But this is a guy who can play all over the offensive line. This is a guy who's going to bring versatility, and I do think that this is going to be their pick.
No, I agree. I think the Ravens can always get better on the offensive line. It's something that the Ravens tend to be very good at, no matter what. I feel like if they draft an offensive lineman, you know he's going to be a dog.
Yeah. Although their offensive line is usually terrible. Well, next we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I have them drafting who I said the Bengals were going to draft. I think he falls to 15, and I do have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers drafting Keldrick Falk. This is a guy who's on the bigger side, so he can potentially slide inside, but I do think this is a guy who's a great pass rusher. He's better at stopping the run, but this is a guy who can be really good at pass rushing. His bread and butter, his money making is going to come run stuffing. He's an edge rusher who's going to be a run stuffer.
You know, I think the Buccaneers know what kind of team they are, and they're a defensive team. Instead of replacing Mike Evans this early, I think it makes a lot of sense to get the defensive line. And I think you get one of the more underrated defensive linemen in the draft who's going to fall so far. And I think it's a fantastic pick for them.
Yeah. Okay, next we have the Jets with their second first-round pick from the Colts. Thanks, Sauce Gardner. But next, the Jets are going to get their Sauce Gardner replacement, and they are going to draft the best corner in this draft, the guy who didn't play last year. They're going to take Jermod McCoy. This is a guy who, if you saw his 2024, he was clearly the best corner in the entire country. There are concerns about his ACL because he tore that back in January of 2025, and he didn't play at all. He didn't work out at his pro day, and I think he's actually starting to get on the field, but there are teams worried about that knee. But if that knee can hold up, I do think that the Jets are getting the best corner in this draft.
You know, I think that teams are starting to look at injuries with a little less skepticism right now.
Yeah, look at Will Johnson.
With most teams being so deep, I think you can take, especially 15 on the first round, you can take a pick of a player who has been injured and be like, hey, we might get a player who can be really good for us in 2 years. And especially a team like the Jets, who we know is always a very good defensive team. If Jerome McCoy comes back maybe not this season fully healthy, but next season fully healthy, I think this is a home run of a pick.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you said it perfectly. But next, the Lions are on the clock at pick 17, and they need a right tackle. And because Penei Sewell's moving over to left tackle next season, and I think Spencer Fano fills this role perfectly. Spencer Fano's a guy that has played all over the offensive line, so if there's another injury, Spencer Fano can move over there. But I think that he is going to be a great right tackle of the future.
Here's the start of our run.
Well, not really, because it's just two in a row.
Just two in a row,
But next,
so.
the Vikings are on the clock, and they also need offensive linemen. They are going to reach, and because there's another guy who was probably a safer pick, but I do think the Vikings usually tend to kind of reach on offensive linemen. I do have them taking Caden Proctor. There's a lot of question marks with Caden Proctor, but I do think that the Vikings are going to go with the guy who is a higher upside in Caden Proctor than Monmouth Freely.
You know, as a Packer fan, these last two picks are a little frustrating because these are two really good players. But no, I think both of them are smart choices from smart offense, from smart, front offices. And I think you hammer out the positions of need, and these are two of the best. You're right. One of the guys we haven't mentioned yet, in my opinion, is the best. But I think you can't go wrong with Spencer Fano, or especially Caden Proctor, with how massive of a man that is.
He's a monster human being. There's also another guy who's potentially.
I just think if Caden Proctor can turn out, if his size, if he can stay healthy and he can turn out the way you expect of him, he may be one of the most dangerous offensive linemen in the league.
Yep. And now we're going to move on to the Panthers at number 19, because the Panthers, with how improved their defense was, they still had one issue, and that was getting to the quarterback. And I do think that the Panthers pick up the best remaining edge rusher, and they are going to take Cassius Howell out of Texas A&M, meaning Cassius Howell and Nick Scorton are finally reunited in the NFL, and they're going to wreak havoc on the NFC South for years to come.
It's funny because the NFC South is, you look at the quarterback play in that division, obviously the best quarterback is Baker Mayfield, but, there's not much I still think Baker Mayfield is better than Bryce Young. I'm sorry. You can hate me on that
Baker
one.
may be the third best
Mayfield,
in that division.
Baker Mayfield, has Bryce Young ever had a 40-plus touchdown season?
No, but
Has Bryce Young ever had that?
did Baker Mayfield make the playoffs last year?
Bryce Young is an amazing player, but he has never seen the heights that Baker Mayfield has. But besides that, I think we can recognize that the NFC South is pretty bad. And the only elite quarterback talent outside of Bryce Young is Baker Mayfield. So if you can rush these bad quarterbacks of this division, you're going to have a lot of success.
This
I don't think Tyler Shuck will ever be on the level of, in my opinion, I don't think he'll ever be on the level of the other two.
Okay, 20 with the Cowboys on the clock at 20. And did anybody ever see any other option other than the Cowboys drafting an edge rusher with the pick that they got from the Packers? And I have them taking TJ Park, edge rusher out of Clemson. And yes, Clemson had a down year. Peter Woods was a guy who was projected to be a top 10 pick, and he had a down year, but I still think there's huge upside with him. But I think they're looking for a Micah Parsons replacement, and you're not going to replace Micah Parsons, but you can at least take a swing at a guy who is going to be a really good edge rusher of the future for the Dallas Cowboys.
No comment on this pick.
Alrighty, now we have the Steelers at 21. They have a lot of issues. They may need a quarterback, but we won't know until after the draft because Aaron Rodgers is not going to say whether or not he's going to play next year until after the draft. So I have the Steelers drafting a guard, and I have them drafting Vega Ioane. This is the best all-around offensive lineman in the draft. He's the best guard in the draft. He's a solid tackle, but I do think he will play mainly guard.
I will say, even if Aaron Rodgers does come back, I think the Steelers should look for a quarterback at some point. My only issue is once you get past Fernando Mendoza and Ty Simpson, I don't think any of them are at least good enough to be taken until the 4th round. And then your next best pick is probably Garrett Nussmeier or Carson Beck.
You mentioned Carson Beck.
I'm sorry, if you're looking at the other quarterbacks available, Diego Pavia, I think he's undrafted. I think there's a lot of really mid-level, Caden Salter. Kate Klubnik, I just don't look at these guys as like, oh wow, we should draft them. So I think the
And
moment you had
Drew
Ty Simpson,
Aller might be the actual best passer in this draft.
I understand that, but being the best passer doesn't equal out being the best quarterback. Once Ty Simpson was gone at 13, I just don't see a single quarterback being taken until the 4th round, probably.
And I think there's a world where, as you said, second, third round go by, and there's not a quarterback taken until we get to day 3, and it could be Garrett Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik, Carson Beck. There's also, what's his name from Baylor? No, the big quarterback. Forget his name.
Oh, I forget you're talking about. I know who it is.
Yeah. The guy who wanted to be receiver, and he said no.
Yeah, there is no real quarterback talent outside of Mendoza and Ty Simpson, depending on how you view him.
I don't really think he's going to be a franchise quarterback. I do think teams will reach to get Ty Simpson.
I agree. I think some teams just need a quarterback in general, so they're going to fight for him. But I think the only franchise quarterback in this draft is Fernando Mendoza. I'm not even sure he's a franchise.
He is. Fernando Mendoza is a franchise quarterback. But you know what's funny? He graded out better than Cam Ward did last year.
Well, I think he's a good quarterback. I do. I just don't know. I don't know if he is a number 1 overall talent.
He's not, but if you're quarterback needy and there's a guy who's projected to be top 5, you're going to take Fernando Mendoza at the first pick. Next, we have the Chargers, and did anybody suspect them taking anything else? The Chargers had the worst offensive line in the league last year, and I think they're going to take Monroe Freeling. Yes, he's a tackle. Yes, Joe Alt is a tackle. But there's another tackle. There's 2 tackle spots, and Rashawn Slater is a guard. And what do they do at center? Because they brought back Bradley Bozeman. They brought back Trevor Penning, but they still have a lot of issues.
Yeah, I think even just getting more talent on the offensive line, because
It's not a bad thing.
I feel like you got to look at the teams like the Chargers and the Niners and just feel bad for them with all their injuries.
And fans will never be happy with their team drafting an offensive lineman, but that's why they're fans and not GMs.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I remember the discourse online about the Chargers taking Joe Alt over, what's his name? Oh, the receiver from the Giants.
Oh, Malik Neighbors.
Malik Neighbors. I get it. You want to see the flashy plays. Joe Alt is going to be we look at Joe Alt, and even the few games he's played, he's clearly a top 10 lineman in the league. So yeah, you don't always have to take the flashy pick. I think the Chargers are smart. Shore up that offensive line. Protect your franchise quarterback.
Yeah, because they're solid. They have Omarion Hampton, Lad McConkey, Trey Harris, Quentin Johnston, Amari Gadsden. The offensive line is the big issue. Their defense is elite. They have one glaring issue, and that is protecting their offense from staying upright. But next we have the Eagles at 23. I think their run defense was a glaring issue last year. Teams were able to run all over them, and that was their downfall last year. And I do think Caden McDonald is going to be the pick that's going to come in and immediately help shore up Eagles' run defense. I get they had Jordan Davis last year, who got a huge contract, but Jalen Smith was not that great of an edge rusher last year, or of a run stuffer last year. And what's Nolan Smith? Wait, Nolan Smith too?
I think it's Nolan Smith you're talking about.
Nolan Smith is their edge rusher. They have so many Georgia guys. They have so many Smiths and Jalen's.
It's even so late. It's almost 10 o'clock for you.
I know. We've been recording a podcast now for almost 2 hours now.
But we're gonna speed run this because we're both
okay.
Really tired.
Next, we have the Browns taking another area of need in C.J. Allen out of Georgia. I do think this is a guy who's going to help alongside Carson Schwessinger and shore up this defense. Granted, they didn't really need it anyways, but you can never have enough defensive help.
This next team is one that no one cares about.
Next, we have the Bears. They need a corner. They need secondary help, but I have them drafting Colton Hood out of Tennessee. I do think this is a guy who's going to help them right away, much to the dismay of this guy over here. Next, we have the Bills, and yes, you could say that they need receiver. I don't think that the Bills are going to take a receiver in the first round. They got burned by Keon Coleman, and I don't think they're going to take a gamble on another early receiver that they don't know if they're confident in fully. I have them taking Dylan Thieneman. I think he's the best safety in this draft. Maybe EMW, Emmanuel Warren McNeil might be up there, but I do think Dylan Thieneman's a little better. The 49ers need receiver right now. And with Trent Williams, I think that eliminates the need for them to draft another tackle. Granted, there's no real tackles left other than the one that's the next pick. And at 31, but he's a guard. But I have the 49ers taking Casey Concepcion, and he just had a knee surgery, but I think he'll be better. The 49ers need receiver. This is a guy who's out. Next, at 28, the Texans need offensive line. They need offensive line, and then they need offensive line again, and then offensive line again, and then offensive line again. And I have the Texans taking Caleb Lomu, who is going to be the Titus Howard replacement, which I don't know why the Texans traded him, but he's going to help them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And now the Chiefs are on the clock with the Rams' second pick that they had. And the Chiefs are going to draft a receiver, and they're going to draft Denzel Boston, the big body receiver out of.
Wait, I hate that. So
I know they're having a really good draft. Next, the Dolphins are on the clock, and with they already addressed corner. I think their receivers are fine enough right now. I do have the Dolphins at 30 drafting Kenyon Sadiq. They have Greg Dulcich at tight end right now, and Kenyon Sadiq is tight end of the draft.
I think you have to give the quarterback. You just give a bunch of money to some kind of weapons, especially if you're trading Jalen Waddle away. Devin Achane is great. He cannot do enough, and I think
Malik Washington's our number one. They have Tutu Atwell. They have Theo Weiss. They have.
I look at Kenyon Sadiq as a potential of being like a Sam Laporta was for the Lions. I really think that we could see him step up in a massive way for this Dolphins team.
Yeah. Next, the Patriots. We all know what their area of need is. I think they need an offensive lineman. They're going to take one of the best players, one of the best offensive linemen, a really good guard in Emmanuel Pregnon, to help maybe alleviate the pressure that Will Campbell had last year, because we saw them get exposed by Seattle. But next we have the Super Bowl champions who said that they plan on moving out of the first round. I'm acting right now as if they're not. They need a running back, and I have them taking the second best running back of the draft, Jeremiah Love's teammate in Jadarian Price.
Just the only two running backs being taken, both being from Notre Dame.
I mean, there are a few good running backs left, but I do think that the two best running backs are both Notre Dame guys, and I think they're the two that are going to go in the first round.
I can see it. I do think they actually will move out of the first round, but I can see them taking a running back.
Maybe if Ty Simpson is still on the board at 32, the Seahawks will trade with the Cardinals.
Maybe. Or the Cardinals can recognize the Seahawks aren't going to take him.
Yeah, but you know that they'll be like, oh, what if the Jets take him at 34?
That's fair.
But anyways, that is going to do it. What do you think of our mock draft? Do you think we are absolutely out of there? What do you think is the craziest pick that we had? I know a lot of people are going to say Ty Simpson. I do think it's the right spot for Ty Simpson. I also don't want the Cardinals to get Ty Simpson only because they have him rumored trading up, and I think trading up for Ty Simpson is the stupidest thing in the world. But anyways, we are on Buzzer, which is a sports content creation site. It's a new one. So we're Two Bros Podcast on there. So BZZR. You can find us on there. And also you can use the code 2BrosPodcast at w.gg for 10% off your first purchase. But if you guys liked, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, we will see you guys next time. Peace.